Day 2 of the inaugural Vainglory Premier League Preseason Invitational. It's time to rev it up to another level. The non-stop gaming action starts now.
What does it take to mold a champion? Shape your destiny. Hone your craft. In mobile esports, it doesn't get any bigger than this. This is Vainglory, where you master powerful heroes, destroy the enemy Vain Crystal, and claim glory. 5-person teams are forged from across the globe. The best in the world begin their journey now. This season, elite teams attempt to survive a gauntlet of fierce competition from an onslaught of mobile superstars. They'll take their shots until a champion is crowned in their region. Today is where the moulding begins, the preseason, where teams have the chance to establish their rhythm as a new 5-player team, try out strategies, and gel as a group in preparation for a historic run for the championship. The VPL Preseason Invitational begins now.
We are ready to bring you a full day of fun here in Las Vegas, Nevada. 12 teams are gearing up all around the world for Day 2 of our Preseason Invitational, and we are ready to kick things off. Welcome, and thanks for joining us again for Day 2 of the VPL Preseason Invitational. I'm Kate Elliott, and I'm joined by two of the biggest names in Vainglory, Tasty Bacon and Flash X. Guys, we are getting ready for Day 2 of the Preseasonal. We're getting this underway. What are your impressions from yesterday? First impressions.
First impression is I'm very impressed with how well so many of these teams have adapted to 5v5 so quickly and have just figured out these strategies that they want to run early on, but now we're going to have to see how things will continue to evolve.
Definitely. It's so new. These teams are still figuring out exactly how they want to go about executing their different strategies, but they very much seemed like they were on track and understood very well exactly what they wanted to do.
It seemed like that is the case. One of the biggest storylines coming into the tournament was how each team would fare in the new Vainglory 5v5 format. It's brand new. So after Day 1, which European team impressed you the most? Flash, why don't we start with you?
Has to be with Team Clash. I think everyone expected Queso, with their acquisition of the SK roster, that they would be the ones coming out on top, but it was actually Clash coming out, setting the tempo and the momentum from the get-go, and they performed incredibly well.
Yeah, and we're going to take a look. You see Clash taking the victory. I was actually super impressed with Salty Potatoes and Equinox coming through as well. They just absolutely routed their opponents, really, against Wolves and Rising Lotus. So obviously the teams that faltered a little bit yesterday are going to be looking for a bit of redemption here today.
They are. I can't wait to see what passion they bring to today's matches. All right, guys. Well, we are going to talk more EU storylines throughout the day. But right now, I want to get into the North American region. What intrigues you about today's matches?
For me, it's something that we're going to actually get to see right off the bat, and that's the two teams that did not play on yesterday's games, which is the Slimy Salamanders taking on Vision Gaming. This is such a stark contrast in the two teams. You know, Slimy Salamanders, they're the team that has all these old veterans, you know, some returning players, guys that hadn't played in a year, like Iraqi Zoro, as you see right there. He was on the desk sitting next to me last year. Now he's going to be back in-game on the rise. And then you have Vision Gaming, this upstart new roster. You know, they qualified for what would have been the Vainglory 8 last year through the challenge battles. They took the scene by storm. These names that not many people really recognized, absolutely performing incredibly. And so we're going to get our first look at them right off the bat when we do switch over to North America. We've also got Hammers eSports taking on Team Solo Mid, another rivalry kind of renewed a bit. And then finally for today will be Tilt Rehab going head-to-head against Nova eSports.
Before we get to North America, we're actually going to be able to take a look at Europe. It's going to be Team Queso and Rising Lotus kicking things off. Team Queso definitely going to be looking for that redemption. They know that they're a very good team. They have to pick it up a notch, though. And then followed up by that, it's going to be Equinox taking on Salty Potatoes. And then rounding out Europe, it's going to be Clash against Wolves. That should be exciting as well.
And we are just moments away from our very first 5v5 draft of the day between Queso and Rising Lotus. But before we get started, what are you guys going to be looking out for with the initial picks?
For Europe, I'm going to be looking to see, are they going to stick to those priorities that we saw yesterday? We saw a lot of Celeste getting through, and then taking over games. So I would be looking to see, will teams start banning away the Celeste? Will they start banning away the Krull a bit more frequently? Are we going to get to see the Takas, the Alphas in Europe? Because those were the priority bans yesterday.
Yeah, definitely a different meta. They're still figuring things out. I personally loved how aggressive Europe was. I absolutely hope to see that continue throughout the rest of the season, and hopefully we get to see a lot more of that throughout the day today.
Excellent. All right. Well, we are going to have a look at the 5v5 draft, the very first one for today. It looks like we're already getting going. Guys, what are you going to look out for here? Who's
got the Tony ban, we've got the Krull ban. Tony we saw in almost every game until the late stages of the day when teams started banning it away. But this does leave that Lyra pick open, and this is one of those picks that we've seen have a massive impact as well. Those Bright Bulwarks and the Arcane Passages, if you can isolate an individual and then Arcane Passage, get your entire team on top of them, it's essentially a free kill.
Yeah, because every team in Europe played yesterday, they were able to kind of study and learn exactly what some of these meta picks were and what some of their comforts were. Saw a lot of Tony yesterday, Team Queso not liking that, taking it off the table, and opting for Lyra very early on. That's another stark contrast from North America. Played maybe in one game, but definitely not as prioritized as what it has been in Europe thus far.
Man, the Grumpjaw pick is another one that I love on 5v5. Again, being able to isolate an enemy target is just so effective. If you can just turn a 5v5 into a 5v4 before things really kick off, it just gives you such a large advantage, and that's exactly what Grumpjaw can do.
Yeah, you can set up a bunch of really fun eat combinations, spit them out into the Celeste core collapse. It's going to do really well. And again, it's that Reza pick that's just going to be diving onto the back line. And we actually saw it executed really well yesterday, where Lyra actually started that engagement with the Arcane Passage on top of Celeste. So that's definitely going to be something that Rising Lotus has to watch out for.
Yeah, the other thing that's a little interesting to me is, I want to go back to that Tony ban. Team Queso, they were the ones that played Tony in their matchup yesterday. It was Leon that was running that Tony pick. So if he's going to be still playing in that captain role and now on the Lyra, having a huge playmaker, someone who has such spectacular mechanics on a hero like a Lyra, if he's the one that's shot calling as well, having a Lyra be your shot caller, being the one that determines when your team goes in, it is so crucial.
Definitely, and Catherine coming off the board as well. Queso not wanting to have to go against that. That can definitely be a very annoying combination with all the crowd control that Rising Lotus already has. Team Queso saying that they don't want to have to give them any more of it. Rising Lotus picking up the Samuel, starting to get a little bit of that AoE, and now Team Queso has to be really aware of how much range the side of Rising Lotus has, because they are going to be able to play from a distance, and if they can't find perfect engages, that's going to be something that hurts them in the long run.
Yeah, they're going to grab the Alpha. I would not be surprised at all to see them go for something like the Kestrel just to match that long range. You need something that can compete with the range of a Samuel and a Celeste. So a Kestrel I think would make perfect sense here. They could also go for a Gwen. They're going to grab the Scarf. So that's still, it gives them some of that range. It gives them a lot of that turret pushing ability as well that we got to see showcased a little bit yesterday towards the later stages of the day. But there's still now openings for Rising Lotus to get even more of this range, get more of the poke and the harass, because there isn't a lot that can deal with it on the side of Queso.
Yeah, Queso's comp really well balanced. They can dive in if they want to. They can kite and play from a distance if they want to. Rising Lotus, though, increasing the amount of range that they have still. It definitely seems like they're going to be kiting Queso as much as possible. And if Queso isn't disciplined enough to be able to not get kited back, then that's definitely something that can get them into a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, they do have a little bit of dive between the Reza and the Alpha. They can get onto back lines that way. But like you mentioned, if you just kite backwards, if you can disengage from that fight, it's a good 5 to 8 seconds before they can try and do that again. So that range, the poke and harass coming out from Rising Lotus is something that could be a problem if this game goes into the late stages without having forced team fights.
Now that we're in 5v5, another one of the big differences that these teams are going to have to watch out for is there's so much space around the entire map that on the Halcyon Fold, typically when you just kite it in one direction. Now that we're on the Sovereign's Rise, you can spread out into multiple directions and multiple angles so that you're kiting from different directions all the time, so that even if one of your carries gets dove on and gets engaged upon, the other two can kite in a completely opposite, completely different direction, and that's something that could really help Queso.
And another part of that is you can kite in one direction where your opponents have vision, and then say, okay, we know they have vision there. Let's cut in a different direction, and then the rest of the team moves up and ambushes. You can set up a lot of opportunities. There's going to be an Idris pick for the side of Queso. Again, very likely to be a Crystal, just you would think, but with a Reza and a Scarf, I'm not 100% certain if that's going to be a Crystal or a Weapon Idris, but if it is a Crystal, or sorry, if it's a Weapon Idris, it just further exasperates this problem of not having any range. And there's an Adagio. There's only one melee hero on the side of Rising Lotus. They are all in on the range, poke, harass composition.
I cannot wait to ask you this question. So the picks are in. We got a general idea of how the game's going to go down after looking at the teams. So Flash, after seeing the picks, who is your player to watch?
It's got to be Tyrus. Had a bit of a rocky start to his performance yesterday. I definitely think he's a player with very strong mechanics. He needs to step it up a notch today, though. He needs to be clean. Whatever hero Queso ends up putting him on, he needs to make sure that he's executing those dives absolutely perfectly.
Yeah, and meanwhile, on the other side of the Rise, looking for Rising Lotus, I'm going to be looking a little bit at Lure. He's on the roster. He didn't play yesterday. This was a guy who had a massive impact last year in 3v3, so I'm curious to see if he's going to be on the Rise today, if he's going to be in the starting lineup, and if not, you know, it starts to bring questions like, are they going to be shaking up the roster if they aren't successful today? So there's a lot of questions, I think, and this is what the preseason is for. It's for trying out, you know, your rosters, figuring out what works. If you don't win in your first couple of games, do you start shaking up your roster? Do you start bringing in other players onto your team? It's going to be interesting to see what Rising Lotus decides to do, or even Queso if they aren't successful here today.
Yeah, so those are the players to watch. Let's revisit the hero picks for each player, because I think you were talking about who's going to be playing home. Are there any unique matchups standing out given the current selections?
I'm going to be curious to see where they're going to go with this Adagio pick. It looks to me like it would end up being their captain. And just kind of roaming around using the healing to just kind of help whichever lane needs it, which is very different from what we saw in Adagio yesterday. We saw Adagio as a mid laner yesterday. So having heroes played in different roles is what I'm curious to see.
Absolutely, the best part about 5v5 is how much flexibility there is between so many different heroes. They can be played all across the Sovereign's Rise in multiple different ways, and how exactly these teams are going to execute it, only time is going to tell.
I think we're about to find out. Let's find out right now with our very first match of the day.
All right, here we go. We are underway for day number 2 of the Vainglory Premier League Preseason Invitational. Tasty Bacon alongside me is Dragonborn, and already right off the bat, it is very aggressive. First blood has been secured by Team Queso.
We saw this coming out of Europe yesterday, I almost said last night. And again, this is Queso, really kind of the team to highlight, to showcase this aggression early. They played the same way yesterday. They are looking like they want to come into today, into Sunday, and play with that exciting aggression. I'm really liking the way Europe is looking so far in the preseason.
Yeah, and I mean, that kill was it was members of Rising Lotus being very aggressive, trying to make an invade, and Queso just being able to answer. But now Queso, they're the ones that went aggressive. They got that kill, they got that opening, and they moved on in. They did steal away a few camps. Tyra's got a little bit low, but they're going to be okay and able to escape. And now things going to kind of settle into our regular laning phase, although I'm going to keep an eye on where Palmatoro is going to be going with this as he just went back. So he's going to be coming out with a little bit of defenses. I still really want to see where exactly this Idris build is going to end up going.
Yeah, we do see, of course, when you start with the Book of Eulogies, it could go a crystal route. It could go weapon. There's 2 paths to Idris. One of the advantages, of course, of Queso moving in like that, getting that early aggression vision. They got some nice vision game on some critical parts of the map, specifically that bush right next to the crystal orb on the enemy side. So that's a great spot to have vision. You get so much information from that spot. So early game could be a very big factor here. I do like, of course, it's nice to see this Scarf Celeste matchup again in the lane. Could be one of those matchups that, you know, they're both such powerful mages. What I really do like, though, is with the support Adagio. We've seen carry Adagio yesterday in North America. Now we're seeing the Roam Adagio. I think it's a very powerful pick in 5v5.
It absolutely is. And another thing to highlight is down here in the bottom lane, Lure he's going to be kind of in this sort of 2v1 situation because we've seen so many teams putting that jungler on the bottom side of the map and trying to focus on getting that carry ahead. But Lure on this Samuel, we talked about right before we got into the game, the player to watch. He wasn't starting yesterday. Palmator, he's in a lot of trouble underneath this turret. That's the power of an early game Grumpjaw, but Solicitude doesn't connect with a few shots there and ends up taking a lot of damage underneath this turret. Thankfully, he'll be able to just recall away to safety with his Grumpjaw because no one from Queso was ready to make that rotation because, again, Tyrus is putting focus on the bottom side of the map.
Rising Lotus balanced that turret damage so well. You saw Grumpjaw go in. He went really deep, took a few shots, got right out of range, so the turret reset. Kestrel able to get a few glimmer shots on there. They actually missed one, might have gotten the kill a little bit faster than that, but they did secure it. And they were able to. Great job there. If you're going to two-man the top lane and you're going to apply pressure, you need to take advantage of that. You just can't sit back and wait for Reza to get in, into the middle of the lane. You have to actually press into the turret like they did, and picking up that first kill is great.
Yeah, a little bit of a skirmish over the Crystal Treant. That one will actually end up going to Techno JJ. So Queso going to be very happy to steal that one away and get the buff on their mid laner. And now they immediately go rotating over. Are they going to contest their own Crystal Treant? Because Rising Lotus immediately is going to try and just secure that one. Say, you know what, you take ours, we'll take yours, make it an even trade.
4v2, that's a tough one matchup. They're going to have to let that one go.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, the rotation, again, comes in. Once you still, oh, Lyra with a snipe, PRZ picking that one up. But, while I was saying the rotations, when you steal your opponent's Crystal Treant and yours is up, you have to know that they are immediately going to try and make a play for your Treant because they do not want to fall behind in the buff game. So, I would have liked to have seen Queso commit a little harder to securing themselves both buffs.
Absolutely. And of course, then to give up a kill like that, you had a level 4 Lyra to a level 3 Celeste. That's, you're going to be favoring the damage on the Lyra on that sigil since you put all the points on there. 3 points, in fact, and PRZ going to rotate up to the top now to help Reza. I mean, Reza needed the help up here. Again, there was a lot of pressure coming from the top early, and that's a good adjustment. But sometimes you're making the adjustment so late that you lose sight of a possible pressure to be pushed on, like one of the other lanes. We aren't seeing that so far yet. A lot of jungle rotations coming out of here from Rising Lotus.
Yeah, and you look down on the bottom, we have seen Hundor going into the jungle very frequently with Tyrus to try and steal away the enemy jungle, but it's kind of leaving Hundor in what could potentially be a negative situation. You look at the CS numbers, Lure sitting at 27, whereas Hundor is just eclipsed the 20 mark. So there is that opportunity for Lure to get a lead over Hundor, and with Hundor going this weapon Idris route, he'll have the dash to dodge a Malison Verdict, but aside from that, he's going to have to be in melee, and against the Samuel, you can end up eating a lot of damage.
Well, there's a lot of really great play strats for the weapon because there's a fair amount of CC that dash will actually help negate. Like, you'll be able to get out of some first judgments.
On that turret from Kestrel.
Well, you've got the tension bow already built in the Grumpjaw. This is going to be that proc Grumpjaw, so a lot of upfront damage. Early game, definitely something that that Queso needs to be careful about.
Yeah, absolutely, especially between the Grumpjaw and the Kestrel. But you see, Queso, they're answering. Queso and Rising Lotus have basically been answering each other blow for blow. Queso went and stole a Crystal Treant. Rising Lotus immediately came and answered. Rising Lotus took a top turret. Queso immediately went and took the bottom turret. So very similar strategies from both of these teams. Even though they have very different compositions, they're both playing with the similar ideas in mind.
No, absolutely. I mean, no surprise that you're seeing the top and bottom lanes pressured from either side. Kind of in equilibrium now.
This could be a bit of a fight here. We've got all 10 members right in this area, and that's going to be Keanu Nakoa going very low. You see Cracks actually falling as well on the backside. Great job by Queso, picking up 2 quick kills. And now what are they going to find from it? Ghostwing did just land. That is exactly where they're going to go.
That was a great job by Queso to identify their power spike. You saw Hunter, he had that Sorrow Blade already built. He just built it from the shop, and you saw him immediately lock on target and secure a kill in the fight. One of the first kills taken. They do only pick up 2, but they get the objective. They get the Ghostwing. And again, playing to your power spikes there, when you have someone who's as flexible as that weapon Idris, early on getting that power spike, you need to be careful. I mean, Kestrel not really in the fight, not really present there, unable to kind of deal out the damage he needed to right away. Hunter was able to get that kill really quick.
Cracks also got caught out on the Celeste very hard. That's something that we saw from the Celestes yesterday, the ones that were successful, did an excellent job of keeping themselves out of harm's way and preventing deaths like that when an engage happens. But we are going to be getting a little bit of a pause here. Hopefully can get this sorted out as quickly as possible. But obviously, you know, if there is an issue that any of the players are experiencing, they're going to be able to pause the game, get things squared away, make sure that we have the games as even and fair as possible.
Absolutely. You know, the ability to make sure, even though it is preseason, you could tell these players want to make sure that they can, you know, play to the best, show off their best, you know, the best strats they can, and also win. They want to win. That's, again, the ultimate goal of this game.
Again, we talked about it a little bit yesterday where, you know, we on the desk and at the casters table, we're talking about how, you know, it's a preseason, it's the time to test things, to see what works, to tweak your roster. But if you listen to any of these players leading into the preseason, that is not the way that they look at this. They look at this as their chance to showcase themselves, their chance to show that they have what it takes to be the top team in their regions. So it is not something that the players are going to be taking particularly lightly as we get further into this preseason especially. But we are going to be getting unpaused here, so we will continue the action now, Dragonborn.
Yeah, and just like that, another kill secured. Maybe not, you know, like they needed a pause. I did get word like Rising Lotus had some lag issues that they wanted to get corrected. So they did get that, you know, hopefully sorted out. Keanu actually having to dodge, just race out of there. You got a 3-man push here in the top lane and a whole wave of minions, so this could be a turret being secured for Queso.
Yeah, it's going to be a turret getting secured, especially those outer turrets. You know, they're pretty quick to go down when you put a little bit of focus on them. Counter Nakoa just keeping himself safe, trying to buy time for his team to answer, but there's not really too many rotations coming over. You do have the Kestrel, Solicitude making their way back, but no one else is really in a position to answer this just yet. Obviously, Queso knows that the rest of the team would be rotating at some point and don't want to take the chance of getting caught out.
No, true, you've got the mid lane here. Adagio Celeste just trying to keep that pushed up. They don't want to lose another turret there. You do have Hundor finding the Adagio, caught out. Oh my goodness. A lot of damage on that weapon, Adagio's, at just 8 minutes in the game.
Yeah, and again, look at the rotations coming out from Queso. We just had 3 members top. Now we've got 5 members mid. After finding a kill, they're just going to work on this middle turret. The minions are going to get cleared out thanks to the efforts of Cracks on the Celeste. So they're not going to be able to take that turret down, but now they can continue this rotation. They have literally just moved from top to bottom. Solicitude taking advantage of the situation, and being this Kestrel can just melt through turrets with those glimmer shots. That's exactly what's going to happen there. But now Queso wanted to try and get that bottom turret. Great job by Rising Lotus to recognize this rotation and move as a team to answer, but now we're going to be getting underway. That's going to be Grumpjaw just deleted the rest of Queso. They are just winning these team fights very decisively. They are finding kills. The burst damage. Tyrus going in
under
deep
turret.
Under turret into the base. Doesn't care about the damage coming out from the Vein Crystal.
They did it.
Is diving for kills, and it's going to be Hundor that actually picks that one up. But Queso, you know, Rising Lotus has done a great job of objective play, but Queso is just winning every single fight.
PRZ taking the damage from the crystals so that the Alpha could recall back was great. He's going to go down, but you absolutely got to love that kind of aggressive gameplay coming out to dive into underneath the armories to just get those kills. Hundor,
look at the damage coming out of
a lot
Hundor.
of damage.
It's so many times we've seen people playing the Idris and go for the crystal route, but
right.
Hundor is making a statement here with the weapon. Idris absolutely chunking through his opponent's health, and you know, as he rotates up, he could very easily look for more. And they're going to go for this Ghost Wing. Rising Lotus will obviously want to try and answer this. They know that it's going on. They have vision there. They don't necessarily have vision on Ghost Wing itself, but they are going to give that one up. They realize that with 4 members of Queso there, they don't want to try and compete against that.
One thing I just briefly want to mention that happened a few minutes ago. Well, we might have
Solicitude probably going to be going down here. Not really much that you can do as a Kestrel in that situation. And now Nomad Vagabond, the rest of Queso collapsing, and Queso playing with a purpose here.
More like Vaga gone. I mean, so one thing that's important that we saw from Rising Lotus is it's a defend push, right? They stay when they can defend with 3-man and push one of the lanes. We saw Kestrel do that. That's why the top lane for Queso is so depleted. that's something that we do want to see more of these teams. We saw it a lot yesterday from Europe, but probably in the wrong way, where they would just like completely push instead of defend. But defend push is definitely where you can defend with a smaller amount of your team and then push another lane while you have a 5-man push coming down either mid or bottom or something. So definitely like the fact I saw that out of Rising Lotus. Of course, it was followed up with a really awesome dive by Queso, getting some more kills. And it looks like the bottom lane now is at risk of falling down.
Tyra's going in deep again. This time he's going to get a lot of damage onto him, but still just barely gets put into that infinite reboot, will be able to get back up and continue to use his burst. And, you know, Tyra's going for this crystal path. It's a triple crystal composition for the side of Queso, as they are now just making light work of these turrets. They're getting into the base, bottom turret down, mid turret down, and they're diving in for some kills. If they can find a few more, they could very well look to try and end this game. Nomad Vagabond going to be extremely low, trying to get back to the fountain, trying to keep his team alive at the same time. Tyra's in some trouble. Those glimmer shots doing work.
He's going to get
Hundor doing damage to the to the armories. This is just PRZ distracting members of Rising Lotus so that his teammates can work on these armories. They've got one armory. They're going to get the second one, and that will be 2 exposed lanes now for the side of Queso. When 4 members getting out of this, nearly only 2 members getting out of that as that Solar Storm rips through. But well, they did get 1 kill.
They did because of the Spellfire. Celeste, that Solar Storm, does a lot of damage up front. It also continues to do damage thanks to that item build. And that is why you saw him die kind of like, you saw Reza just kind of fall off. Like, wait, why did he die at that point? That's exactly why. A lot to be said about that, but that's kind of tricky. I mean, Rising Lotus is kind of losing these very quick fights, so something like Spellfire maybe in those team fights don't work as well. Nice to see it kind of work out for them in that moment, though.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to composition and the way that you're playing the composition. It's not a bad composition that Rising Lotus have put together by any stretch, but Queso is just playing to counter that composition. You know, they have a poke and harass comp. They want to sit back. They want to just try and, you know, push up siege turrets. In you know, other games, you know this as a siege composition, but Queso are just not allowing this to happen. They are going in so aggressively, diving onto that back line before they can even start to kite away. They're picking up kills, and it has just made life so difficult as you see another one come through for Hundor.
You cannot 1v1 Hundor right now. This guy on the Idris, we have not seen this kind of like, you know, jungle rotating roam Idris before. I absolutely love it. It really, you know, and the triple crystal kind of baits Rising Lotus into building a lot more shield. And what that means is Hundor can just dive in.
3-on-2. Hundor and PRZ, they just took the turret. They didn't even care about the team fight. They took the turret. There's 4 members of Rising Lotus there. The rest of the team was taking Ghostwing, captured up that Ghostwing, got the buff. They're now pushing in to try and end this game.
Right here.
And it very well could be ending here, especially with Hundor and PRZ joining the battle. They pick up even just 2 kills. That should be all that they actually need to end this. And a huge burst of damage coming out from Tyra's, and they are now getting in, looking for the kills onto Keanu. He's going to fall, diving into the fountain, looking for some kills, but that's going to be taking a lot of damage in return, but they're onto the Vein Crystal now.
They get
I don't know if they have enough damage for it because they took so much on that deep dive, but Solicitude, he's going to be able to stay alive. Finally falls due to the Idris. There's a 3-4 kills now wrapped up. They're looking for the ace, but they're not going to get it as the Vein Crystal has been shattered, and it will be Team Queso redeeming themselves a little bit after their day 1 performance as they take down Rising Lotus. And so with that, we're going to be getting ourselves back over to the analyst desk, but I mean, Team Queso, this is what we expected out of Team Queso coming into the preseason. When we saw this roster announced, this is the type of gameplay that we were expecting to see out of them.
Wow, you guys, what a match to kick things off. Team Queso defeats Rising Lotus. What is your reaction after watching that?
I mean, for me, it's just, like I said, this is what we expected out of Queso. This is their team fighting ability is something that SK has always been known for, and now transitioning that, into this 5v5, this is what I wanted to see out of them.
Yeah. 100% agree. They knew exactly how they wanted to execute today. They seemed a lot more comfortable. Maybe yesterday they had a little bit of nerves being the first game of the VPL preseason. Who knows? But from the very first minute of the game, from the get-go, EU with that aggression looking so strong, going straight into the jungle of Rising Lotus, grabbing that first blood. Super good and definitely panned out for them.
Flash, let's talk about the pivotal point in the game. What really turned it around for our winner and secured that win?
It's really just that last team fight when Queso was inside the base of Rising Lotus. They had already started putting up the pressure. They have 2 armories down. They know that Rising Lotus is on the back foot. They already have over a 10K gold lead. They just need to fight, be coordinated, explain which target they're going on to, which target they're focusing. They did just that, and once they cleaned up a couple of kills, it made it very easy for them to go onto that Vein Crystal and take the game.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just so impressed with both Hundor and especially our player to watch, Tyrus. Tyrus stepped up so much from his gameplay yesterday. He was played the same hero, but just significantly more impactful here today. You saw the damage he was able to do on those engages. He started that fight off with a huge prime directive that took about half the health from 2 to 3 members of Rising Lotus. It was absolutely stellar performance out of Tyrus, and that is what he made his name doing last year. That is why it was so surprising to see him kind of come out flat yesterday.
Now, of course, we like to mainly focus on the very action-packed gameplay during these broadcasts, but we also like to have a little bit of fun, and since we have our very own Tasty Bacon in studio with us this season, we had to pay homage to his legendary gamer name and take a look at some of our other favorites. Chicken, Ex-Scoundrel, Selena Gomez, no way. I love Joseph too. Joseph's always such nice men. Oh, Joseph. Well, take a look, Tasty. This is what we put our incredible editing staff to last night.
So that's where all the budget went.
Beautiful. That is gorgeous. And since we're on the topic of bacon,
they got me a gift too.
One more present, just to show you.
Actual strips of bacon. I don't want to be like crunching right into the microphone on you guys, so I'll save that for a little bit later. But
we got breakfast.
Yeah, we got breakfast here.
So Tasty, I got to ask you, because I'm sure plenty of people are asking, how did you come up with your name?
It's actually not as exciting of a story as most people would think. I needed a name that was shorter than the username I'd come up with like way back in middle school for a lot of games. Like games are like, oh, your username can be up to 10 characters. And I'd be like, well, that's super short. But I was just kind of sitting around and I was like, Tasty Bacon.
It feels
let's
good.
Go. It just felt right. I used it, and then I started getting comments in game from like people being like, "That's an awesome username." So I was like, "Well, I guess I'm going to keep using it then."
I think you made the right decision. I think the community agrees. And everyone out there in the Vainglory community, get involved. What are the best names you've seen online? Talk to us on social media, and we'll hopefully get back to you. Thank you so much. So next, we have the next game coming up. We are on to the second game of the day. We are looking for a great matchup between these two teams, and they both dominated yesterday. So what did you guys like from both of these squads yesterday?
For me, it was just the decisiveness. This is something that we haven't seen from European teams. These were in the past, and they have definitely shown their levels of improvement. The new names coming on to the rise, especially from Equinox, they were just like, it's a team of players that you don't know. And all of a sudden they're coming out, they dismantled their opponents yesterday.
Extremely,
and absolutely,
brutally.
This is kind of like almost a measuring strip for these two, a measuring bacon strip, if you will, of like how they actually stack up against each other.
Definitely. These teams both look so good. Equinox absolutely dismantling Wolves eSports. And like Bacon said, you haven't heard of these guys before. So the fact that they were able to come out, execute so well, know exactly what they want to do, I'm very much looking forward to see what it is they are able to do throughout the rest of the season. These guys are hungry, they want to grow, and they want to develop together. On the other hand, Salty Potatoes also looking super clean on all their different heroes that they played. They executed well. They need to step it up a little bit more today, and if they want to be able to come back into things, but definitely looking forward to them throughout the rest of the season.
Absolutely, me too. We are ready for the second draft of our game. Let's get in there and see what the teams are picking.
Yeah, so this is going to be, again, Equinox taking on Salty Potatoes. We saw yesterday it was the Equinox with the Celeste pick, absolutely dismantling Wolves eSports with it. It took a little bit to get going, but once they got to like that 5 to 8 minute mark, it was just non-stop aggression. Salty Potatoes, they recognize that. They immediately take that Celeste away from them, and pairing it with the Krull going to be very strong.
Yeah, absolutely brutal combo for the side of Equinox to have to deal with. Definitely was really impressed with the Lyra out of the side of Queso in our first matchup of the day. It's a little bit of a different meta compared to North America. Europe, however, is definitely making it work. They executed it absolutely flawlessly. They knew exactly the target they needed to get onto. If they can do that again, if they can go straight on to the Celeste of Salty Potatoes, they can make this work. I think the execution is a little bit harder compared to some of the different strategies that you could potentially go for. And Varia, another hero that we haven't seen too much of, definitely a lot more in Europe as opposed to North America, but definitely can be very strong, and she has those Stormforged spears to try and play at a distance and do a lot of damage from those back lines.
I'm actually really liking what Salty Potatoes are doing here. You look at their draft, they get themselves the Reza, they have the Krull, they ban the Alpha, they ban the Taka. Those are like the big bruiser assassin type heroes that we see all the time, and they're basically eliminating all of them from the potential hero pools of Equinox. So definitely a focused decision there from the side of Salty Potatoes.
Yeah, very knowledgeable, decisive drafting. They know exactly how they want to execute their comp. Equinox, however, they are going to grab the Tony. We didn't see Tony in game one. It was banned away. They're starting to get a lot of crowd control. And now the fact that we already have a Lyra, it could be a carry Tony.
We've been waiting for it. We've been wanting to see the carry Tony. Hopefully it will come out this game as well, but it's also eliminating a lot of the potential captains for the side of Salty Potatoes. They banned away the Arden, they have the Lyra, they have the Tony. I wouldn't be surprised to see them ban something like the Catherine here that a lot of teams have been going for, and force Salty Potatoes onto something like the Grace or the Adagio as the captain, something like that, just taking away as many heroes from a single role as they can. It's difficult to do because you can draft them so early if you want to, but once you get this deep in the draft without picking a captain, you're able to start eliminating them, and they go for the Fortress.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I would love to see Salty Potatoes to go for that Grace. It's going to be something that if Celeste or Kestrel gets dived upon, she can use that Divine Intervention to try and keep that carry, their carry that they think is most vital, alive. And it's going to be a Petal coming out for the side of Equinox. Not a hero we have seen thus far. Definitely a hero that I think is viable in 5v5, and as long as they execute it, very good counter to Krull. It allows Petal to kite Krull very well.
It's not as strong of a counter to Krull ever since the Frostburn changes, but especially if Petal goes for the Shiver Steel. The Shiver Steel can be such a strong counter to that Krull. It's going to be really interesting to see if they do decide to try and go for that, but Petal, I think, as you mentioned, definitely still a very strong pick that can make an impact. Might be, next update we might be seeing a little bit more Petal with some of the changes, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see what they can do with her.
Yeah. So now that the picks are in, we're going to dive further into what each section will mean. We want you both to give a player to watch this match. Bacon, we'll start with you.
My player to watch is going to be Viking from Equinox. I mean, his performance yesterday, I think, absolutely warrants this because he was so strong. He took over the game and just absolutely dominated.
Yeah, Joker for the side of Salty Potatoes had a pretty strong game yesterday. I think that he's capable of a lot more. He needs to make sure that he's executing on a higher level, making sure he's staying on the same page with the rest of his team at all times, but he absolutely has those fundamental mechanics to make sure that he's a dominant player.
Excellent. So those are the players to watch. Let's revisit the hero picks for each player. Are there any unique matchups standing up given the selections, guys?
I think the Petal is definitely one that we're going to be keeping an eye on, but the carry Tony is the one that I really want to see. It's very likely going to be in the top lane, probably up against, something like the Kestrel, so that range matchup could end up being an issue for him.
Yeah. Well, as we mentioned, both Equinox eSports and Salty Potatoes dominated their first matchups yesterday. Did you notice anything different about these team strategies today that you didn't see yesterday?
I think a lot of it was the same. Europe came out from the get-go playing very, very aggressively. I absolutely love that from this region. I think it's a lot more entertaining to watch compared to some of the Vainglory we've seen out of Europe in the past. But yeah, if Tony can get ahead, he is going to be dealing out a massive amount of damage.
Yeah, there's also a lot of mobility from both of these teams, so I expect to see that aggression continue into this game because they both have very strong level 1 compositions. They both have very early power spikes that they're going to going to be looking to capitalize on. So I think the draft very similar to what we saw yesterday.
Fantastic. Well, let's see what we get. Here is Equinox eSports versus Salty Potatoes, match 2.
All right, we are live on game number 2 for Europe, and they are going to be getting things set up. Equinox and Salty Potatoes had a little bit of salty bacon on the table just a moment ago, but it is now time for the potatoes to bring things to the rise. And Equinox going to looking to answer. Both these teams looking stellar yesterday. Only one of them can get a win here today.
They just took the bacon away. I mean, I was thinking if we had another pause, that would
better be there when we're on our break between regions, because I was looking forward to that bacon. But we'll have to wait and see, because right now there's a little bit of a skirmish going on here in the top side of the map. It's a lot of that level 1 damage being dished out. Classed is the target. And looks like they want to maybe continue diving. Look for that gold oak. This is something I'm actually really surprised we haven't seen more of, is contesting this gold oak early, because that is so much gold right off the bat. But you see Joker does secure it, and now Luga is in a world of trouble. He's going to be going down. First blood secured by Classed.
You know, can't believe I'm saying this, but in EU fashion, right off the bat, we don't have to wait for action. We don't have to wait for kills. First blood has been like under 3 minutes almost every single game, which is exciting, absolutely exciting, and I love the aggression. I think because a lot of teams, you know, they're taking advantage of the fact that map awareness, vision, all that's new, so you can be more aggressive. You can get the surprise attack, might as well take advantage of it. Maybe in a couple of months, that will start to, you know, settle down. Teams will get better at sniffing that out, but for right now, it is just, you know, pedal to the metal.
Well, the pedal is to the floor just there, but we'll be getting to see another kill come through as the Joker secures that one. Luga trying to just, you know, capture what he can out of the jungle and look to reset, but a great early start to this game for the side of Salty Potatoes. They were able to secure their jungle, steal away their opponent's jungle, and get the first 2 kills of the game. You can see very early on already about a 1,000 gold lead for them. Again, not as impactful as a 1,000 gold lead in 3v3, but to be this early in the game and starting to build that gold lead is big.
No, absolutely no question about it. Is that a flare gun on Lyra? I'm trying to see.
Yes.
Yeah, wow. So that's probably the first time I've seen the flare gun build first. I mean, you talk about vision prioritization. Flares in this game very, very powerful in the sense that, you know, you can just put them down, snuff out the vision, get rid of it right away. Boom, it's done. Maybe not as strong as a scout cam, but again, for that price, you get that extra vision right out the gate.
Yeah, and it's one of those situations where you grab that right off the bat. It allows you to build yourself into the upgraded vision so quickly. We've seen, especially with someone like a Lyra, who doesn't necessarily need a Fountain of Renewal right off the bat because she has the healing available, go for that vision as your first item. And that's what I would expect to see here out of Alex SS. Is, you know, try and prioritize that vision. Start putting the scout cams. Get that pool of 5 scout cams that you can have in your inventory.
The vision battle, the vision war, it is so important in the map. And I kind of like the idea about building the flare gun, because if you build the upgraded scout cam, you get 1 extra scout cam, so that's just 3. But if you build the flare gun, you get 2 scout cams, 2 flares, and those come up much quicker. So your vision game could be much stronger.
Gonna get dove underneath the turret. Luga using both the munions and his own body to soak up some of that turret damage, making sure that they survive that dive, get that kill, get a little bit of an advantage. So Equinox getting themselves on the board, and now a great rotation up to top. All 4 members looking to go diving under this turret. Perhaps we'll see. Classed looks like he's a little bit too healthy for them to really want to commit to that.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see the pedal pick transition into the mid game. You see already 5 crystal bits, so he's gotten his first shot done, and a lot of crystal. He's likely going to go just straight crystal damage.
Yeah, and you look at Savantu as well with this Tony 4 weapon blade, so a lot of just getting as much early damage as possible. And I like that as an answer for when they fell behind. So just try and get as much damage as you can to get yourself back into the game, and then start looking for your utility items once you've gotten things, you know, a little bit back on equal footing.
Absolutely. Good rotations could matter huge. We see it could be a big push happening up in the top. Here in the bottom, sneaky. We saw this with Reza plays before, and I actually really want to point out, Tasty, that, you know, one of the things you don't want to do is overextend in your lane. That's how you get ganked. And I do like to see some of these more closer ranged or melee heroes, they aren't being aggressive in the lane. They're just waiting for the minions to push to them before they go out there and try to get all the CS.
And you got to be careful when you do that you don't let too many of those minions die to the other minions. Sometimes you have to go up against, but that's what the wave control is all about in the early game. Is you want to keep the enemy minions towards your side of the turret. You actually want them to come towards you if you're going to be staying there. But Jang gonna get damaged pretty heavily here, trying to get to the safety of his turret, not going to be able to get far enough. And Sneaky and the Joker able to find themselves that kill. And now you see they're just going to shove this wave up as hard as they can into the turret, get some good damage on the turret, but it's also forcing Equinox to miss out on a little bit of CS. But here comes Safantu and Alex, classed, chasing right behind them. I don't know if they really want to go for this fight underneath the turret. You see a little bit too early for turret dives.
Class rotated down to see if he could help them push, but yeah, you're just not going to be able to outdo the damage. It's too early. There's just too much barrier damage, and there's too much going against you early on. You don't have enough to take down that turret quick enough. I know they really wanted it. We do have a nice 1v1 going on between Aeon and the Varia Viking, but it's going to be a stalemate.
And, well, right now it's a rotation up to mid, and that's not going to be a stalemate as there's a lot of damage being dished out. Ultimate coming down from Varia.
Early
not going to be doing too much, but it will dissuade Salty Potatoes from trying to commit to that fight. They didn't want to be grouped up. One shot, one kill. Was going to try and sneak onto Safantu. Doesn't quite connect, so things just kind of resetting again. Luga going up to the top, but down actually in the jungle, we do see Kroll getting caught out. Safantu able to find that kill, and they get that weapon buff back onto their side. So that's going to be really big for Equinox, especially going onto Tony to get that weapon buff. Sneaky does take the turret, but now are they going to look for an opportunity to answer? I think this is a time where they should be rotating with a couple of members of Equinox and looking to answer.
Yeah, but I don't think they are able to. Cruel had to recall back, so they're not going to be able to push up top. Mid's basically stale. I mean, they're not getting heavy pressure onto the mid lane. So honestly, that's Salty Potato securing a nice early turret objective without having to worry about any push coming from the other lanes. I mean, they were rotated heavy on the bottom, but there was nobody on top to follow up from the side of Salty Potatoes.
Yeah, and so great job, again, like you said, by Salty Potatoes to make sure that they go for an aggressive objective push when they know that they won't be answered immediately. It gives you that little advantage. You do that a couple times, and all of a sudden you find yourself with a 5,000-6,000 gold lead from Hell's Heart.
Luga.
Just not quite going to hit. Luga able to stay safe on this pedal. And we're going to see a couple more skirmishes here around the middle of the map, but thus far, I've been much more impressed with Salted Potatoes rotations than I have been with Equinox's rotations. But now we're going in, bada bing, knocks the Joker under the turret. Will take one shot there, but everyone is collapsing. You already see Lyra very low. So much health on the side of Salted Potatoes. They're going to find two quick kills. The Joker is extremely low, but no one can get in to try and take him out. That was just, again, a better rotation from Salty Potatoes. It was a smart decision from Equinox, but Salty Potatoes were right on their heels to answer that.
Yeah, already hitting some of those ultimates early on in the game. And we're at 8 minutes, so you expect to see them starting to come out. That was a great bada bing. Being able to just put people into awkward positions and also separate them. You're not lumped up together, be able to focus on your carries. So great job. Celeste, though, a lot of damage coming out. Building that Spellfire first. We've seen this a couple times already now in the preseason.
Oh, Viking getting chunked down by the Joker from Hell's Heart. Will connect to stun. He's going to get himself the passive, and they're charging right on in, looking for the kill onto Viking. They get that one. Now are they going to look for more? Alex SS is here, but they know that there's at least one more member of Equinox down there, so they don't want to be committing too heavily. And again, smart decisions from Salty Potatoes, just taking what you can get, not overcommitting. Although now Kroll might be in a bit of a troublesome spot. He's going to end up falling here. Ended up kind of sandwiched between 4 members of Equinox, but Salty Potatoes, they could still look for more. They could look for a fight. They have a large damage advantage. You see the chunks being done by Aeon on the Celeste. The Arcane Passage going to disrupt things pretty heavily. Classed healing up from the fountain. Able to survive one shot. Will end up tagging Alex. Nice body block, making sure his squishier and lower health allies did not eat that damage. Now here comes Sneaky, and he's going to have a lot of burst potential as well. But they don't. Everyone's just sort of backing off at this point. So a little bit of a late rotation by Sneaky, but he's actually going to stick around here and hold this lane.
Alex just built that Crucible. That's huge. We actually are seeing like no reflex blocks on the side of Equinox on the carries yet. which was one of the big challenges when you saw that Bada Boom come in, you know. But on Salty Potatoes side, we're actually seeing they have of 2 reflex blocks or 3 reflex blocks. So much better prioritization of building those blocks, which are going to be very important. Equinox needs to start taking that seriously as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have the From Hell's Heart, you have Holy Novas and Core Collapses, and, you know, to a stretch, even the active camos that you're going to be wanting to try and block up. So a lot of big stuns available, but this is a nice rotation from Salty Potatoes coming down onto Equinox. And 3 members of Equinox are here now, but it's just not going to be enough. Jiang going to get focused so heavily until he goes down. Nice Solar Storm is going to clip a couple members. They still want more kills. Alex SS very low is going to end up falling as well underneath the turret. Salty Potatoes finding themselves 2 kills, and now they can look for another objective, such as Ghostwing.
Now that's a great rotation coming right down, getting the speed buff from the river, just rushing in, getting the kill. And you saw great trying to disengage from that fight. Equinox was running as fast as they could, but it just could not outrun the pace that was coming in. A great job. So a big objective here. SF4, he was thinking about it, but he's not going to.
Yeah, he wanted to try and get a steal there, but just wasn't quite able to. And again, Salted Potatoes continuing to build on this lead. It hasn't been, you know, a dominant performance, but they have been getting small advantages here and there. Look at the gold difference. It's about 6,000 in favor of Salty Potatoes. So again, slowly building that lead up, looking for more opportunities, looking for a team fight here in the mid lane. Lots of damage going down, but that's a great block onto the Bright Bulwark so that the team can continue running amok. And it's going to be low health for the Krull. Krull will be the first casualty from Salty Potatoes. They do find 2 kills of their own. One shot is going to go wide. And there comes the Varia Ultimate to make sure that they do not continue pushing onto this turret. That's one of the great things about Varia Ultimate is you can use it during a fight to get the damage or after a fight just to try and dissuade your opponents. But Salty Potatoes, it was a little bit mistimed on that Ultimate from Varia, so Salty Potatoes were able to just regroup and take that turret down.
I don't know how I feel about it. I do like using the ult as a dispersion to kind of push people away, but you're right. It didn't really ultimately end up the way they wanted. They still got the turret. Salty Potatoes did. So I think I would have liked it better when everyone was grouped up in that fight. It was so chaotic.
I definitely would have liked it a little bit earlier, but
the Liver's passage.
Oh, Luga just getting annihilated there. That's again that burst coming out from Sneaky on this Reza, along with the rest of his team being there to help. They don't even need minions for this turret. Just going to mow that one on down. Class will drop a little bit low, but again, no cause for concern because the rest of Equinox are nowhere to be found. 2 of them still waiting to respawn. So it's looking pretty good for Salty Potatoes here.
Looking pretty good here. I do love the Kestrel from Salty Potatoes, Esquire. A lot of one-shots coming in from across the map. So these ultimates that you can use, these global ultimates, are great ways where you don't have to rotate down and you could still impact that fight, which I've seen he's used throughout the entire game so far this match.
I've been very impressed thus far with Sneaky and his performance. This is a guy who last year was known for having, 2, 3, maybe 4 heroes that he played at the top level, and now he's clearly added to that hero pool, playing this Reza exceptionally well, 5-0-1 on his KDA, and has been a very impactful part of a lot of these little skirmishes and getting that big burst damage down right up front and then using the Netherform detonation to finish heroes off.
Yeah, it's been a really strong match from Salty so far. As we approach the 14, soon to be 15-minute mark, we will probably see a Black Claw hitting the map before this game is over. But right now, Salty Potatoes, the vision game, just look at that. They have absolute dominant control over a lot of the bushes around the center of the map. And that's going to be absolutely huge. It gives them free opportunity to take a Ghost Wing here uncontested.
Yeah, they know exactly where their opponents are pretty much at all times now. And they can see, okay, we have free reign of this map. None of our opponents are even close to the river. So let's just grab ourselves this Ghost Wing, get that objective, get that buff. And then in 30 seconds, 40 seconds, can rotate up, look for the Black Claw. I expect to see them just trying to push down this bottom lane. It's the only Tier 2 turret left standing for the side of Equinox. They dodge out the Tony Taunt, and so they're not going to get trapped underneath the turret. Bada Bing does knock away Aeon, and That's not really going to be stopping them from diving onto this turret. Aeon misses the Solar Storm, but again, they don't even need Aeon in this fight. They're still just diving 2-on-3 and finding the damage. They got the turret down. Aeon finally able to get himself back in after the fearsome shade, and you see members of Equinox just melting under the pressure of the heliogenesis. Looking for another turret. They're taking mid-turret as well while this is all happening. So a split push of sorts for the side of Salty Potatoes. They grab themselves bottom turret. They grab themselves mid turret. We just saw Black Claw has landed. They're a little bit low. Not sure how much more they're going to try and stick around for at this point. But again, they have such dominant control over their presence on the map.
Oh, nice one shot coming in, doing a decent amount of damage. Able to hit that quite a bit, Esquire. This is looking bleaker and bleaker for Equinox. They still have all their armories, though, and I really do believe as long as you've got your armories, you've got a shot in the game. It's something that Salty Potatoes will likely have to consider, either waiting for another Ghost Wing buff or going for that Black Claw, unless they can just absolutely catch out Equinox, and just find them, push through, and then finish off the game.
Equinox has an opportunity here because members of Salty Potatoes have not gone back in a long time, so they haven't bought up. There's a lot of gold in their pockets, but they're still just melting through. Solar Storm rips through the team, and it's 3 quick kills being found.
Just like that.
Ridiculous for Sneaky Viking, the last man standing. He isn't going to be able to escape and prevent his team from losing out on possibly even the game here. The ace will come through in just a moment. Ace for Salty Potatoes. They have an armory down. They're on to the Vein Crystal. They will be picking up this victory. And this is now back-to-back convincing wins for Salty Potatoes. This squad is looking very, very good here in the preseason. It's still pretty early, but I am really liking what we have seen from the Potatoes. The Joker, Classed, Sneaky, Aeon, and Esquire just putting on a bit of a show here. It took a while for them to really get ramped up fully. They got an early lead. They kind of just slow played it a bit, but once they started finding some objectives, they started falling very quickly.
Wow, what an exciting game between two very strong teams with a complete smackdown at the end there. Salty Potatoes defeats Equinox. How do you guys feel about that?
I was expecting more from Equinox. I'm not going to lie after their performance yesterday, but I'm still very happy to see that Salty Potatoes continuing to ride this wave of momentum.
Yeah, Salty Potatoes looking super strong, like you said. Would have liked to see more out of Equinox. They are still a very new team. They need experiences like this where they're faltering, where they're not playing too well, so that they can take that knowledge into the future. It's still just the preseason. They have a lot of time to grow, a lot of time to develop, and I definitely expect them to bring it even harder in the future.
Absolutely, especially after that. So Flash, take us back to the pivotal point in the game. When did the match really get grabbed?
Definitely that last team fight. I mean, it was a little bit back and forth. Salty Potatoes had the gold lead for the vast majority of the game, but once they found disengagement onto Equinox, Equinox not in bad positioning per se. They kind of just face check into that brush, and so many of them are grouped up so close and tightly together that all the AoE damage coming out of the Celeste, a lot of the massive burst damage coming out of Kestrel is just too much for them to have to handle, and something that they just weren't able to adapt to.
And for me, it was Viking. I want to put a little bit of focus on him because he was the player to watch. He played phenomenally yesterday, but his positioning on the Varia just was not up to what it was on the Celeste yesterday. Multiple times there's these large clumped up team fights without a Varia ultimate coming out because he's so focused on trying to navigate through the team fight. He's in the thick of things. He can't start using the ultimate and ends up not getting it off at all during a fight when everyone is on top of each other and it would have the most impact.
Definitely.
That was weird. Did you guys see that? All right, well, for those of you who were here yesterday, we showed you a little behind-the-scenes look at our set here in Las Vegas. But in case you missed it then and just now, check it out. Check it out.
There we go.
Not that I wanted to, because this is a very unflattering color.
Go back.
Go back. Please go
please.
back. No. So as you can see, it's all an illusion. A lot of green and magic. Not exactly a flattering color. But we will be going to a different studio very soon. This is a very flattering studio. Take a look. It's at the Aria Resort and Casino. We will be coming to you live from our new set during the VPL regular season, beginning in June. I bet you guys can't wait to be in there. Look at that. Look at the wood and the green and the things and the... It's so shiny.
I know I personally cannot wait to be in that studio. It's absolutely gorgeous. It was my first stop when I got to Vegas was to walk over to the Aria Resort Casino so I could check out where that studio was. It is in a prime location. It's right on the strip, right in the middle of the strip, and it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous set. I cannot wait to be able to show that fully to all of you.
I love that the nerds and real professional players have finally arrived. We are here, and we're here to stay. All right, I think it's time to get into our final EU match of the day between Clash and Wolves eSports. Guys, Clash looked really good in their first win over Team Queso yesterday. What did you like about their strategy last time?
Executed absolutely beautifully. They had an uphill battle going against the new Team Queso roster, but they knew exactly what they wanted to do from the get-go. They didn't have any fear. They just fought from the moment of the game started until the end in classic EU 5v5 fashion is starting to seem like. So definitely expect more of that today. And if Wolves doesn't step it up a notch, they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, Wolves struggled against Equinox yesterday. And the way that Clash played that game, the hard focus on getting objectives early, on taking down turrets right off the bat. They were constantly grouping up from about the 5-minute mark was when they started just roaming as a 5-man squad. And if you are not prepared for that, you are going to lose a lot of objectives, fall very far behind. And like you said, Wolves, they're going to have to really impress today if they're going to have a chance.
They're going to have to bring it. And as seen by our earlier game, you never know what's actually going to happen. So we are just moments away from the draft between Clash and eSports, Wolves eSports. Is there anything the viewers should be watching out for from pick-wise from these teams?
Meta is definitely different from North America. It seems there's a lot of priority onto the Lyra. Wasn't as successful in that last game. But a lot of these dive-heavy, poke-heavy heroes are working very well. It just seems like whichever team is able to execute better is the one coming out on top. Don't give over Celeste and a Krull together. Worst case scenario, just give the other team one of them. But I definitely think giving over two is next to suicide.
Yeah, we're seeing so much focus on the Lyra today as being first picked twice now. But like you mentioned, you're leaving up so many other power picks. I think the Lyra shouldn't really be as much of a priority because the Lyra, yeah, it's great against countering those melee dive heroes, but you don't have to build a team of melee dive heroes anymore. That's not in their focus. You can pick a Celeste. Celeste doesn't care about a Lyra unless she's portaling onto you. Neither does a Kestrel. Like, you have so many ways to play around a Lyra. I want to see teams start to move away from putting the full focus onto her.
On top of that, there's so many different captains in the Sovereign's Rise that are so strong. You don't need to first pick your captain. Lyra's good, but there are other options that are just as strong, and teams I don't think should feel like they have to be forced in this pick so early on into the draft.
Yeah, as we mentioned, Team Clash was able to win their opener yesterday, but Wolves eSports was not. Do you think Wolves eSports will come out with a more aggressive strategy this time to make up for it?
I think they'll have to if they want to have a chance. You know, it's always tough to say, will they actually do this? There's always what they should do, and then sometimes there's what teams actually do. And they're not always the same thing by any means. So I would like to see Wolves be much more aggressive, or at least be ready for that early aggression that we saw Clash bring to the table yesterday. You know, you have to, being able to defend objectives is just as important as being able to attack objectives.
Absolutely. On the flip side of the coin, Clash has to make sure that they don't get sloppy. A lot of teams, when they're in this position, they feel so confident their opponent just lost, their gameplay was a little bit sloppy. If Clash doesn't maintain that composure and the discipline to execute how a top professional team would, they might falter, and Wolves can definitely capitalize on that.
Yes. Okay, so we haven't got the picks yet. We're just waiting on the draft. But I was just wondering, with the game we had with the Wolves eSports yesterday, you said that there were a few things you wanted them to do. Is there anything on your mind right now that you hope they don't do?
I don't want to see them overcommit. That was one of the issues they had against Equinox was when they fell behind, they would try and force the issue. They would try and force themselves back into the game. and that's not the way you play from behind in a 5v5 situation. You need to play a little bit more defensively, play under turrets, just focus on rotating and matching your opponent's rotations so that you can prevent yourself from losing too much.
Let's be a little defensive. Let's get into the draft right now and see what they pick.
Yeah, as we get into the draft right here, Wolves especially needs to come in with a better game plan. They need to be talking and discussing during the draft right now exactly what it is that they want to be doing, because it did seem like they weren't always on the same page at time. And if they can't do that, it's going to be in trouble for them. But getting the Celeste and the Tony, that's a great start. Clash, unfortunately, opting for that first pick Lyra yet again. But hey, with their mechanics yesterday, with Leon on the Lyra, full confidence and faith in him to be able to play it to maximum level.
Yeah, and it's with the Tony pick and the Celeste. You mentioned banning away the Kroll, making sure you don't get the Kroll Celeste over. It's almost surprising to me that Wolves Esports actually banned the Kroll themselves, because they would have had that opportunity. Because we've seen so many teams put the emphasis on the Lyra. Let your opponents pick it. Get yourself that Kroll Celeste combo. But obviously, Tony Celeste is still going to be a very strong duo. It depends on, will it be a Captain Tony or a Carry Tony? We've now seen both. We saw the Carry Tony do pretty well early on, but kind of wasn't able to have the impact they needed overall. But there's that Batiste coming through. This has been the other pick that we haven't really talked about it too much, aside from the fact that it's been the weapon Batiste, but so many teams have been running this Batiste in almost every single game I believe we've seen him now.
He's such a good combination of both crowd control and damage. It's the weapon Batiste has the damage in those basic attacks. He has the increased damage from his heroic perk, but he also has the crowd control from the Ordained, from the Fearsome Shade, and that's something that Clash is gonna have to watch out for. Whenever Alpha uses that Prime Directive to go in and get into the middle of these team fights, Batiste is going to be there looking to slow him up, shut him down, and make sure that he is not able to get out any more damage after that first initial engagement.
That's going to be a key to this game, I think, just from seeing half the draft finished. That's going to be one of the major keys to this one. But this Catherine coming through, I think Catherine is a very strong counter to someone like the Varia or even the Taka, who rely on being able to get themselves out with mobility. If you stun them up, prevent them from being able to use, if you prevent a kite, and if you prevent an extra, if you prevent the dash coming out from Varia, cancel out her ultimate, things like that, you can make life very, very difficult for your opponents if you can time those merciless pursuits.
I'm really starting to like the draft coming out of the side of Wolves. There is so much crowd control that, sure, some of these heroes are very mobile, but with this much crowd control, a form of stun, fear, whatever it might be, on every single hero on the side of Wolves, that's something that Clash is going to have to be really careful and really aware of. They do have themselves on their hands of Taka, so if Taka is able to use that Kaiten absolutely perfectly to dodge a lot of this crowd control, Wolves is going to have to be careful, but it's definitely going to be a back and forth battle.
And not only that, but you mentioned all the crowd control. There's still a lot of damage with that crowd control. Batiste, a lot of crowd control, but can also build a lot of damage. Same thing with Tony or Catherine, whichever one of those ends up in the carry role, they can still output a lot while still having that massive amounts of CC. So it becomes very difficult to contend with. The reflex blocks are going to be crucial, but this is something that I've been waiting to see, the Vox. We've seen Vox banned quite frequently, but we're finally going to be getting him on the rise.
Yeah, he's definitely a very strong hero. He can output a lot of damage. Very effective at kiting back, negating a lot of the health. Typically, he's building that Poison Shiv. We've actually seen a lot of CP Vox in 5 versus 5. So depending on what direction Clash wants to go with that, only time's going to tell.
Yeah, that CP Vox got a nice little buff right before 5v5 came out that a lot of people have been enjoying.
I'm sure they have. All right, the picks are in for our final European match of the day. Flash, we've got to keep an eye on someone. Who do we keep our eye on from Clash?
We definitely want to make sure we're keeping an eye on Leon. There was the same person we were looking at yesterday. It's a very deep roster for the side of Clash. I'm the Doom is another one, though, that's absolutely phenomenal. He was dominant in that carry role yesterday. I'm not really sure which hero he's going to be looking for. Maybe it's going to be that Celeste. Maybe it's going to be that Kestrel. We're going to have to find out once they get onto the Sovereign Trice.
Yeah, this is a guy that made a name for himself on the Kestrel last year, but showed that he could play more than that as well. But over on the other side for Wolves, I'm actually going to be keeping an eye on, not this game, but for the future, they have a player on their roster, Redix. who, if you've been around the Vainglory scene, you know who Redix is. He used to be part of G2. He used to be a big name player for G2. He was one of the best Scarf players in the world for a time, but he has been kind of away from competitive Vainglory for a while. He's now on this roster, but he still has not made a start yet, and I'm looking forward to seeing, what are they going to be doing with him? Is he just still getting back into the swing of things? Will he be getting put into the starting roster again? If Wolves struggle, do they make that change? I think Redix, for a while was one of the more underrated players in the European scene, and I would love to see him get another shot on the rise in the 5v5 format.
Yeah, now do we know why he took a brief break there?
There was a couple of different reasons. It was, their school was one, performance was another, but it was
go to school.
I just really hope that we do get to see him again because, again, he's one of my favorite players to watch.
And good for him finishing school. All right, let's finish chatting and get to this game. This is our last EU matchup of the day.
Here we go, the final European matchup of the day. It will be Clash going head-to-head with Wolves eSports. Clash looking phenomenal yesterday in their victory over Team Queso, whereas Wolves definitely struggled a little bit. So we're going to be looking for a bit of redemption, looking to show that that wasn't all that they have to bring to the table. But this is going to be a difficult matchup. There's a lot of talent over on the side of Clash.
Wolves eSports pushing in the mid and then now rotating up. Actually going to come right through Clash's jungle here. They're looking for aggression. It wouldn't be EU if it wasn't. And they are going to be able to secure.
Feels weird to say, doesn't it?
It does. They're going to secure this healing treant, which I think is a great pickup. When you're jungling, you get gold experience and that heal, which can be so important. So Clash looking to come down here and take the crystal orb and be able to secure at least that in response, which I think is actually a really good pickup for them.
And they're going to be able to grab that away from the members of Wolves. But again, it's all about answering, seeing what your opponents are doing, recognizing, okay, they're invading our top jungle. We need to go invade their bottom jungle so that we don't fall behind. So excellent job answering the early movements from the side of Wolves. And the Clash able to keep themselves right on par. So now this matchup in the mid lane, we've seen it a couple times now. The Celeste going head-to-head against a Varia. Usually we end up seeing these captains rotate over. That's why Leon is now moving in here in order to stick around with his mid laner. But you see the rotation early on from Wolves going up the top. It's going to get spotted out by that scout cam placement from Disowned. And he's going to be able to quickly clear away the cam that was just put down by Preseason. So saying pretty much just thanks for the 5 gold there. It's not exactly the greatest placements. If you put a scout cam within range of a turret, the turret does provide vision of the cam. Yeah,
maybe just a little FYI there that they need to kind of learn for themselves for the first time. But I do like the approach of trying to be aggressive with your vision war. I think that's so impactful into the game, and it's kind of hard to cast it and explain it as it's happening because it just kind of happens on the side. But very, very important where you get your vision and trying to get your vision on the enemy side because with few exception, the enemy's going to be rotating through their jungle first, right? They're going to be apprehensive. So if you can get an idea if they're not there, then hey, they're somewhere else. You can start to deduce that.
I'm looking forward to seeing as 5v5 continues to evolve. I want to see players start putting scout cams in more creative positions because there's a lot of spots where you almost know that your opponents are going to have a scout cam, so you just drop one in the same spot, clear theirs out, just like we just saw Wolves do there in that bottom brush. But once you start putting them in more creative spots, such as where that blues cam was just placed, that's not a spot that's going to get checked all the time. It will get checked every so often, but you want to get as much value out of your scout cams as possible.
What do you say, Tasty? The triple cam in the bush is not creative enough? That's pretty creative.
I mean, it takes a long time to clear out at that point at least, but
a little bit extra time. Very aggressive play here from Wolves. I love what I'm seeing here, going all the way in and taking the Weapon Orb. Weapon Orb is probably the most contested objective in the jungle in the first 5 minutes, so I think it's always a huge thing when you can try to go in and take that away from the enemy team.
But again, the only issue I have with that is they're not really preventing the same thing from happening, is they're actually getting a ton of damage here onto Netolette, but the rotation down from Clash has actually secured them first blood. I'm the Doom moving down and being able to pick that one up. But look at the top side of the map. You have Alpha in the Wolves jungle. So yes, they went in, they stole the weapon orb, but they now just gave up a kill and they've lost their weapon side of the jungle as well. So when you make those aggressive moves, you still have to be prepared for your opponents to be doing the exact same thing.
I do agree with you, and I do like how when you see yourself losing an objective, or if you get vision or information of that, or if you don't even know, just try to be aggressive constantly, and Clash doing a good job. And because of that, they've got a nice 1,000 gold lead. And
Clash definitely going to be looking to go aggressive and focus on those objectives once again. You see Leon finishing off the Storm Crown as his very first item. That is objective-focused building right there. And once they get onto a turret, you're going to have those Storm Crown procs coming through and just helping to melt through those turrets as quickly as you can.
Yeah, interesting and exciting to kind of see someone who's so famous as an aggressive, mechanically skilled carry to go into that captain role, because he brings so much, I think, mechanical play and theory crafting that you may not see a lot from maybe some other captains throughout the league. And this, I really think, puts Clash in a great spot.
Yeah, and there's so many Storm Crowns already built on both sides of the Rise. You have Kigaza going Storm Crown first item on Tony. You also have the Taka finishing off a Storm Crown as his first item. So lots of objective focus is planned for these two teams. And it's really just going to be about who can make those moves first. Lyra, Sigil snipe. That's the second time we've seen that here today. I'm the Doom. He's in a lot of trouble. He's got that ult going, but the taunt will actually be enough to kill him. And that's going to allow Wolves now to get their first kill on the board.
A very early ultimate from Varia in this game. Like, only at 5 minutes and 45 seconds when that ult was ready to go. Using it right away. Unfortunately, had to sacrifice himself. A really bad position for him.
Skirmish still going on down here in bottom. Kigaza and Chrisior going toe-to-toe with Carol and Nettoilette. It looks like Nettoilette and Carol getting a little bit of the upper hand there in terms of the remaining health, but now this is Taka. He's caught between a rock and a hard place here, trying to escape, trying to use the help from Leon, but can't get into the portal in time. Now Leon, he's going to be followed through that portal, but doesn't look like he's going to be chased too much further. So again, a lot of aggression from both teams, and not really either side getting a clear-cut advantage.
Simi, great job on the Celeste, just kind of zoning that whole area for the Taka. I love to have, when you have AoE damage that comes out of a hero like that, you really have to just be kind of just figuring out how you want to put your position, all those heliogenesis, because you don't want to let that Taka get away. It was so low and he didn't get away.
Yeah, we just saw Nettoilette 1v1 against Kigaza there, just using the range advantage that the Vox has, and oh my goodness, the damage to the Batiste, taking him down in a hurry. And again, this is what the Taka is going to be able to do. Here we start to see the damage onto the turrets. First turret is going to be falling here. That will go the way of Clash as Carol and Nettoilette again focusing on the bottom side of the map. We've seen so many teams use their junglers to focus that half of the map, try and get that turret down first and free up some more rotations.
Yeah, nice job. Disowned also building that Storm Crown. So this double Storm Crown here for the side of Clash. They really want to be aggressive. We could start seeing them just go, wow, bada boom, just throwing Carol
throws Carol around, but doesn't do enough, and that's actually still going to be double kill for the side of Clash. They don't want to go diving up under the turret, but finding 2 quick kills there, and we have Ghostwing on the table. It looks like that's what they're going to be looking to pick up.
Yeah, sometimes using the Tony ult is not the way to go, because while you throw everyone around, sometimes you throw people in better positions. I think we're going to see a refinement of that ability as we go on through the season, through the preseason, into the regular season, where these pros start to kind of figure out, all right, when do I use it, where do I use it? Because it really changes absolutely everything if you use it on just a completely different person in a different location.
Yeah, it can change the course of a team fight, but as you mentioned, sometimes it can save a member of the opposing team if they get knocked far enough away and can continue running or just get into a better position for some of their abilities. Just Disowned trying to protect this turret, doing what he can, but that's a lot of damage coming through there. It's going to be the Varia ult will actually chase away. Look at the damage coming down from the Anvil's hammer That is a great ultimate. And look at where Clash is. This is what we saw from yesterday. They are just shoving this wave so hard. They're onto the armory at 9 minutes, Dragonborn. This is out of nowhere. They just suddenly look over and they're pushing this bottom lane deep into the enemy base. They're not even going to get the kill onto Alpha. And the armory has fallen 9 minutes and 13 seconds, a full minute faster than the earliest armory we saw yesterday.
Absolutely. That is something that teams got to be cognizant of, and they need to, you know, they were basically had an opportunity to push top. Wolves eSports did, and they had to recall their third because they saw that push coming in from the bottom. I think at that point you need to completely recall your entire team. That split defend, these teams need to defend better. They really do.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about on the desk is, you know, being able to defend objectives is just as important as being able to attack objectives. And Clash, they just put themselves in a position where they can force objectives, and Wolves just were not ready to answer that whatsoever. You saw how far they got down the wave, or down the lane before Wolves were even trying to answer that push. And Clash more than happy to just take those objectives if you're going to hand them to them.
Yeah, and vision's a big factor of that. When you know the rotations or the position of the team, if they're pairing up, you can start to kind of predict that push and call it out. You see great vision by Clash, which is why they can just move and jump into position to start taking down these objectives so early. And another fantastic catch-out kill. I mean, great job. When you have a Lyra as well, you can just reposition your team so effectively.
Well, this is also another issue that we've been seeing throughout 5v5 is when a team starts grouping up as 5, like Clash are doing here, you cannot be by yourself. You have to be with your team. Clash, they are just diving on through these turrets. They're finding multiple kills. That's already 3 down. They haven't lost anyone just yet. Kigaz is going to be falling next, and that is 4 members dead as they just got the respawn on Batiste, but they're full health. Their health bars are barely even touched as they go underneath the second turret, take that one down. They're onto the second armory. They're looking for that kill into Batiste. An ace coming through as they take the second armory. This is very likely the game. There are going to be respawns here, but they just aren't going to be able to do enough.
No,
Clash absolutely dominating this game. 11 minutes, Dragonborn. We saw in the update notes there's going to be Black Claw spawning at 12 minutes into this game. That would still not be long enough for Black Claw to show up in this one. That was absolutely incredible. Clash just flipping a switch at about the 8-minute mark and just ending the game 3 minutes later. That was incredible.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Another absolutely great game to end our first session of the day. Flash, why don't you give me your reaction after watching that severe beatdown?
Clash is looking like they are on another level right now. I think that's the fastest 5v5 game we've seen thus far on the Sovereign's Rise. Execution absolutely immaculate. Whoever their shot caller is, I'm going to have to reach out to Clash and find out. But whoever their shot caller is, they have their team reined in, and they are executing exactly how they should be, and they are on top of it.
Absolutely wonderful. Now, Flash, what was, I mean, the whole game was amazing, but what was the point when you knew who was going to win?
9 minutes into the game, Clash going into the base, taking that first armory down, just charging right through, dismantling Wolves, shredding them into pieces of the team fight right here. They grab that turret, go straight into their base. They pick up 2-3 kills. Wolves doing their best to try and kite away, but that CP Alpha landing those huge prime directives is so much damage. With that second life, keeps them alive. They take down that armory, and once you have that, that sets the stage for the rest of the game, makes it really easy to execute from that point on.
And it was kind of funny because, like, casting that, a lot of the action was looking like it was focused on top. There were a little bit of skirmishes, and I was sitting there thinking, okay, you know, Clash kind of reined it in a bit. They're not playing quite the same way they did yesterday. And I was like, oh, wait, they're in their base already. When did this happen? Like, they're so crisp and clean with their decision-making, and how quickly they just ended that game. From the moment, it was at 8 minutes again, when they started that push, and then 3 minutes later, the game is over. That was such an incredible moves across the map by Clash.
That was absolutely fantastic. What a brilliant way to finish up an awesome morning of Vainglory action between our European teams. Tasty, give me your overall impression of the team so far.
I'm super impressed with Clash, obviously. Like that, I was not expecting them to be this good. I was expecting them to have great mechanical plays. I was expecting them to be a team that, you know, could win team fights. I did not expect them to be that crisp and clean on the objective focus. I'm also very impressed with Salty Potatoes and the way that they've come out here today. So Europe is going to be looking real exciting as we continue to go through the preseason into the regular season.
Absolutely. Flash, how do you feel?
Definitely a pleasant change of pace. I'm personally really surprised to see how well Leon is doing in this captain role. We know we've played it. He's played a little bit in 3 versus 3, but he's always been such a dominant, mechanically skilled player that I really expected to see him in a carry role. I'm sure he can flex into it if he needs to, but he's doing a phenomenal job as Lyra in that last game.
He is, he is. And don't forget, we have an amazing slate of matches coming up in our North American region. Flash, why don't you give me a quick thought on what you're looking forward to coming up in a little while?
Very excited personally for the first matchup in North America. It's going to be the veterans versus the new guys in Slimy Salamanders versus Vision Gaming. Followed up by Hammers eSports versus TSM. That should be another great matchup. And then finally, to wrap up North America, it's going to be Tilt Rehab against Nova eSports.
Fantastic. Well, that's going to do it for our coverage of the VPL Preseason Invitational European matches. We are back in just over an hour for another full slate of action. For Tasty Bacon and Flash X, I'm Kate Elliott. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you a little bit later. But before we go, we're going to leave you with some of our favorite moments of the day. Enjoy.
And there's a huge burst of damage coming out from Tyrus, and they are now getting in, looking for the kills onto Keanu. He's going to fall, diving into the fountain, looking for some kills, but that's going to be taking a lot of damage in return, but they're onto the Vein Crystal now.
They get one
more. I don't know if they have enough damage for him because they took so much on that deep dive, but Solicitude, he's going to be able to stay.
Equinox, I mean, and just, find them, push through, and then finish off the game.
Equinox has an opportunity here because members of Substudios have not gone back in a long time, so they haven't bought up a lot of gold in their pockets, but they're still just melting through. Solar Storm rips through the team, and it's 3 quick kills being found. This is what we saw from yesterday. They are just shoving this wave so hard. They're onto the armory at 9 minutes, Dragonborn. This is out of nowhere. They just suddenly look over, and they're pushing this bottom lane deep into the enemy base. They're not even going to get the kill onto Alpha, and the armory has fallen 9 minutes and 13 seconds, a full minute faster than the earliest armory.